start of the school year means the start of football season, right? We're excited about that. Even the international students, American football, it's just right around the corner. So if anybody wants to participate this year in our fantasy football league at the school, let me know. The draft is next Monday. That's a quick announcement. Next Monday, there's no school. I know you're sad about that. We have only 3 days this week, and the next Monday we have a day off already. It's Labor Day. But on Labor Day, we have a parade that we're going to participate in. Okay? And that's in Janesville at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we'd like to see as many middle school and high school students out at the parade as possible. We don't want just a bunch of preschoolers and elementary students out there. If you want to show the community that we have a high school and middle school. So you can be there next Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock. It's going to be a beautiful day. Come and ride on the float. Hand out candy to the kids on the side. It's a fun day. All right. This year, our theme is Prepared for Action. Today we're going to start chapel with, we're going to start chapel with a little chapel chat. Okay? We're going to have a little chat right now with some of our junior and senior leaders. Somebody help me with this cable? I'm going to invite the leadership class up here, and we're going to have a little chat with them about this theme. Okay? So if you're in the leadership class, some juniors and seniors, come on up front. There we go. Read last. All right. I guess the questions for these leaders here, they're taking the leadership class. They want to be stand-up leaders in their school. Okay, we want everyone to be leaders in our school, but they're going to take that extra step and be part of this class. I'm going to ask them some questions. Hopefully they're prepared to answer these questions. First of all, the theme is Prepared for Action. What Bible passage does that come from? Anybody know up here? 1 Peter 1. 13. All right, you got it. Let's hear your hand for legs. Yeah. 1 Peter 1:13. Can anybody bring the Bible here? Can they read that passage for us? Actually, it's 13 through 16. Look at Brenda. Here, let's read it.
Therefore, prepare your minds for action. Keep sober in spirit. Fix your hope completely on the grace to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. As obedient children, do not be conformed to the former lusts which were yours in your ignorance, but be like the Holy One who called you. Be holy yourselves and also in your behavior, because it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy.
All right, go ahead and we'll pass that mic now. All right, so prepared for action. Prepare your minds for action. How do you guys see that working its way out through our school this year? How do you see that? How do you see us living that out this year at Rock County Christian School? Anybody have an answer for me?
For me, I kind of envisioned us actually getting involved when it comes to the chapel and singing, because a lot of times in the past I've noticed that we're just kind of as we're trying to sing, and it's yeah, exactly. It's kind of demoralizing sometimes.
Can everybody do that face right now? All right. What would be the opposite of that, Tim?
The opposite of that would be getting involved and actually at least moving your mouth. That would be one nice step. And the next would be just going crazy, I mean, just getting pumped up for God, and yeah, that's what I'd like to see change.
All right, so we would like to see some praise time changes in the chapel. Anything else you'd like to see different this year as we live out this Prepared for Action theme?
I would like to see the entire school, and myself included, just go completely on fire for God. I would like to see us be willing to keep an eye out for those who need help. If you see someone who seems to have something going on in their life, maybe go to them, try seeing if they're willing to share that with you, and then try to help them if we can.
Okay, so looking around us, not just at our own needs, but finding other people that might have a need, going through a tough time and encouraging them. All right, anything else?
For me, I'd like to see people start setting examples, being who they are, and showing that they are on fire for God, and setting examples for other people, so they can have that too.
Good. Okay. Anybody else?
get along this year. Not just, I mean, not everyone has to be like super close friends, but just to respect each other enough to be considerate of each other's beliefs and whatnot. I'm not feelings, I said beliefs. Yeah.
Feelings. We all have feelings. We all have beliefs. So respect each other, encourage each other, be real, be a good example. I like all these things. Good.
Well, Miranda has mine. But just also respect our teachers, like not arguing with them, kind of like tell us what to do.
That sounds good, doesn't it, teacher? Mrs. C's happy.
Well, I mean, school is a good time to set examples, but you can also set examples of athletics, volleyball, soccer, basketball. By trying your hardest and showing the team that it's possible you can win, and no matter how hard it is to, bump the ball and set it to the person.
So it's not just here at school, it's also as you're playing sports that we can carry this through. Okay. Now the theme says prepared for action. We talked a lot about the actions we want to see this year. How do we prepare ourselves to do those things? Does it just happen automatically? I'm going to do it, therefore it's going to get done. How do we prepare ourselves for that action?
There are many ways I think you should prepare. I mean, obviously Bible and travel is a good time to, learn God's will and try and live it out. But also doing devotions and trying to do your hardest to live for God and not to be happy in this life, because there's also an afterlife that you want everybody to know. So
Okay. More of an internal focus, not just a temporary focus.
I think kind of getting along with God and realizing what He would do in circumstances, so that when things come up, you can act how He would act.
Sometimes it's tough, but realizing that maybe some groups of people are not the best to be around and fellowshipping with other believers who, are in the same path you're on to strengthen your faith.
Our God is a very active God, so I think praying and meditating on His Word is very important because He will help us through it, and His Word is the biggest, so I think it's a lot of meditation and reading through His Word.
Just as the verse of the year, it says that we're supposed to be holy just as God and Christ are holy. So as long as we try to keep that in our minds, just what would Jesus do? Continue, just keep asking yourself that in every circumstance, and you will, at least most of the time, get the right, do the right thing.
They pretty much summed it up, but I would say prayer is a big thing, because it's almost like having a friend. If you never talk to that friend, you're not going to get closer to them. You're not going to get closer to them. You're not going to really be like them. And that's what we want to do. So I think to prepare ourselves, we really need to get our mindset right and be with God more often.
Okay. So are you guys preparing yourself for action this year? Are you ready for action? Yeah. You want to see things change this year at Rock County Christian School, the middle school, high school campus? These guys are up here in front. Hey, they're putting it out there. They're saying, hey, I want to do this in my life, okay? So we can hold them accountable to be good leaders in our school, but at the same time, we all want to be doing that. I have one more question. Prepared for action. Today we're going to take a photo. We're going to take a serious photo, smiling at the camera and things like that with your class. And then we want to take a picture of you being prepared for action. Brandon, what would that look like? What would the motion of being prepared look like? Oh, it's a work in progress, but you guys come up with your own. What kind of pose can they strike for this picture, prepared for action? There's Lance got it. Lance is prepared. Make your pose.
He was like, prepared.
Let's have a pose. There you go. All right. So think about the pose you're going to strike in the picture today. Think about, I'm prepared for action. All right. So we're all going to pose prepared for action today. All right. All right. Thank you, leadership team. Are we ready for our...
Good morning. Okay, before we get started, I got a question. talking about our theme verse this morning. And where was that from? Yeah. It took you guys a little while to come up with that. 1 Peter 1:13. And we're going to look at 1 Peter 1:13 through 15, but not yet. So first, I want you to turn your Bibles to Revelation 21. Revelation 21. Now, as you're turning there, I got a question for you. When you think about heaven, what comes to your mind? Streets of gold, okay? Peace, okay, and I heard singing. Jesus. Yes, that was actually the right answer this time, Becky. Peace, Jesus. And by the way, for those of you who are new in my Bible class, Jesus is not always the answer to every question. Just throwing that out. Okay, so we have Jesus, streets of gold, peace, singing, anything else? Sinless, okay? Joy. Perfect, okay? You know, sometimes we have this picture of heaven. I was reading a book this summer, and it talked about the Tom and Jerry heaven. You know Tom and Jerry? Mrs. Rowan does. And older folk. Okay. Tom and Jerry, the little cartoon mouse and cat. And, you know, sometimes in these cartoons, you know, when someone dies, they go to heaven, and what do? They become an angel. They play a harp sitting on a cloud. And that, as you already know, that's not a biblical concept of heaven. But sometimes, you know, we here at Rock Island Christian School, we're a little more enlightened than that, aren't we? We understand that that's not the right idea. But sometimes even our more enlightened view of heaven isn't completely accurate. Look at Revelation chapter 21 and verse 1. We'll start there. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And God himself will be with them as their God. We're going to talk more about that in a second, but did you catch anything when I read that? Mrs. C? There was a word missing. At least in my translation. And I think at least in several others that you have. Take a look. Do you see a word that I missed?
Is it the name, John?
No? Let me read it again. Follow along. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. Oh, wait. Holy. Heaven is a holy place, described as a holy city. I think it was Miguel who mentioned sinless as an attribute of heaven, what we think about when we think about heaven. Heaven is a holy city. The idea of holiness is the idea of separation from sin. Cleanliness that has separated itself from anything that is filthy, corrupt, wrong, bad, all of that. The idea of holiness is separation. It is free from sin. Now, we continue on in Revelation 21, and we see that he will wipe away every tear from their eyes, verse 4, and death shall be no more, neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. And we jump down here to verse 8. For the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, as for murderers, the sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. Those things will not be in heaven. Because heaven is a holy place. Why is it a holy place? There's no sin, but what is there? In this passage, what is the one thing that will be there that we're assured of? God, yes. God will dwell with us. God will be with us. He will live amongst us. Right now, we don't have that, do we? Not in a physical sense. Why? There's sin here. There's suffering. There's all sorts of wickedness and evil that's going on here. God can't dwell with that. So how do we dwell with God? If we had the time, we'd look back at Psalm 15. Psalm 15 goes through, in fact, let's just go there. Go to Psalm 15 in 5 minutes. Mr. C said it's all right if I go over. He said take as much time as I need. So we'll wrap this up on lunch, I promise. Okay, and I'm going somewhere with this. We're going to get to 1 Peter here. O Lord, who shall sojourn in your tent? Who shall dwell on your holy hill? In other words, who can dwell with God? That word tent is the idea of a tabernacle, something of a place where God can meet with us. He who walks blamelessly and does what is right, and speaks truth in his heart, and does not slander with his tongue, and does no evil to his neighbor, nor takes up reproach against his friend, in whose eyes a vile person is despised, and who honors the Lord, honors those who fear the Lord, who swears to his own hurt and does not change, who does not put off his money and interest, and so on and so forth. We have a list here of things that are good things that we should do. We want to dwell with God. We want to be with God. These are things that should be true of us. But are they true of us? No. Maybe from time to time. But not all the time. Every day. At the same time. Right? Some of these attributes, you may have nailed down. All of them? All the time. Perfection. It's not my thing. You might find every once in a while, in my notes, you might find a little typo. But every once in a while, you'll see it, or on a test or something. Not perfect. You're not perfect. So where does that leave us? Well, it's not in heaven, right? So then we turn to John chapter 1 and we see, how do we get there? Through Christ. The Word was made flesh. The Word being Jesus, the Son of God, being made flesh. We could not go to heaven. Why? Our sin. So heaven came down to us. How do we get to heaven? We don't have to get there. It's come down. Through the person of Jesus Christ. It is Jesus. Look at Colossians chapter 2. One of my favorite passages. Colossians chapter 2 and verse 14. Let's go to verse 13. And you who were dead in your trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh. In other words, those of you who have sinned, those of you whose sin separates you from God. What does he say? By canceling the record of debt that stood against us with its legal demands, this he set aside, nailing it to the cross. He disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them in him. So what's the point here? How can we go to this holy city without sin when we are stained with sin every single day? When we are constantly being confronted with our imperfections? You ever just really get a sense of how messed up you really are? Whether it's, I just can't pass this class. I just can't get in with this clique of students. I just can't get the ball in the hoop. I just can't whatever. Maybe there's a sin in your life that you just, you want not to do this. But you keep doing it. You keep screwing up. You keep messing up. And it's just always before your face like, I may be good at other things, but right here, I can't do this. I just keep falling short. I just keep messing it up. Well, this verse says, God has taken that. Taken that sin, even the sins that we don't want to admit, even the sins that we don't want to think of giving up. God has taken that in Christ, nailed it to his cross, and that record of debt is canceled. Canceled to the point where God said, it no longer speaks against you. That's exciting news, isn't it? All of that stuff, all of that filth, all of that sin, taken away, nailed to the cross. I don't have to deal with that anymore. Christ has taken that. But not only has he done that, but if we get that, we turn to Philippians chapter 3, we see that Christ has not only taken away our sin, but he has given us his righteousness, his acts of obedience. Juniors and seniors, you're going to learn the term active obedience later. Christ has given us his goodness, his obedience, his success, and put that to our account, though we did not do that ourselves. Isn't that incredible? So we have, how do we enter this holy city? It's only by Christ, who has made us, who are sinners, thus we who have not even come close to the perfection that's in those of us who are scarred with imperfection, marred by mistake after mistake, sin after sin, rebellion after rebellion. He has taken us and made us worthy to enter into that holy place. Okay, now, that's all introduction to what I want to talk about. Okay? Now, turn over to our passage for this morning, 1 Peter chapter 1. Peter chapter 1. But let's have a quick review. What does sin do to our relationship with God? Just that. Okay, it messes everything up. It separates us from God, right? It's our sin that keeps us from having a relationship with God that we were created to have, that we want to have. It's sin that messes that up. Now, we turn to 1 Peter, and 9th and 10th graders, when we will get to 1 Peter. I know it's like in the back, but we'll get there. We'll see that this is a book of suffering. This church that Peter is writing to is going through a great time of trial, tribulation, persecution, and they're wondering, man, is it worth it? And in verses 1 through 12, Peter is basically telling them, hey, hang in there. Because you have something that is far greater laying up for you. I know it seems right now you are going through a difficult time. People do not accept you as a Christian. People are not accepting you at all. And in fact, you are being persecuted. Some of you are losing your families, your business, and some of you are dying, being murdered, executed. Hang in there, because remember back in Colossians 3, or Colossians 2, you will have triumph. Christ has promised that. And the glory that awaits us in heaven is far greater than anything that we have here on earth. And so with that in mind, he comes to verse 13. Therefore, preparing your minds for action, and being sober-minded, set your hope fully on the grace that will be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. So, prepare your minds for action. Don't say, it's time to get back in the game, guys. You got to prepare with a sober mind, a mind that is clear from junk, clear from distractions. Set your mind on what's before you, on what's coming, because Christ will keep his promise, and you will have a heavenly home that is beyond your imagination, Prepare your mind, set your mind on this. And what does he say? What is the action we're told to do? Look at verse 14. As obedient children, do not be conformed to the passions of your former ignorance. But as he who called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct. Since it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. So Peter tells them, prepare your minds for action. What's the action talking about here? He says, first off, I'll tell you what it's not. It's not returning back to your sin. Why? Because our goal is heaven. Our goal is Christ, who will come back and reign victorious. That's the goal. It's Christ. Sin is not going to help us reach that goal. Your sin is what holds you back. And that's what we have to transform our way of thinking. Preparing our minds. Sometimes we get this idea that, okay, we have a whole bunch of rules here at Rock County. Why? We hate you. We suffered as children, and we're going to make sure that you will suffer as well. Right? Yeah, some of you are shaking your head. Exactly. Well, okay, maybe that's a partly true. But the idea, what we have to look at sin is, it's not helping us toward that goal. But what is the goal? Holiness. How do we obtain that? Because we've already said we're not perfect, and we're not going to get there here. You're going to keep messing up. My typos are going to continue to happen in all my PowerPoints, tests, quizzes, whatever. Count on it. Your sin, you'll be wrestling with it to the day you die. So how do we get it? It goes back to Christ. My goal in my Christian life is not just to give up all these things. My goal, our goal as a school, is not just for you to, not have sex, stay away from drugs, and pass your homework on time. That's not the ultimate goal. We hope all those things happen. That's not our goal. Our goal is to point you toward Christ. All of those things keep you from that. What we have to see, and what we want to talk about this year in chapel, is we have to see Christ for who He is. And learn to value Him more than we value our sin. Because it's easy to give up one thing if in return you're getting something that's better, isn't it? And that's exactly what we're asking you to do. Give up those things that are hurting you anyway and reach toward the goal of Christ Jesus. That's what we're talking about this year. It's not just, okay, do this, don't do this, check off the right places, and be a good student. That's not the goal. Again, we hope some of those things happen. Our main goal is for you to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ that is worth more than anything else this world has to offer. That's our goal, is to love Christ and to value Him. We've been talking as a staff this year about trying to model that in front of you as a staff, as your teachers. Trying to show you that, this is what we value. We're not just living like monks, waiting for Jesus to come back. Our purpose in life is to glorify God. Why? Because in doing so, we fulfill the purpose that God created us for in the first place. We fill the void that nothing else can fill. There's a joy that nothing else can be compared to. It's interesting, if you go back into, we won't take the time, but in the Beatitudes, in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus talks about, blessed are, blessed are, blessed are, blessed are. It says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness. And what is their promise? They will be filled. They will be filled. God doesn't promise fulfillment in any other pursuit, in any other hobby, sport, activity. But if you're hungering after the righteousness that can, there is fulfillment. Let's pray. Dear Lord Jesus, we thank you. We thank you that you came down to us Even in chapter 21, the great holy city, we don't go up, it comes down. You have met us on our level. You have met us in our sin, in our imperfection, in all of our mess-ups, Lord. You've loved us and provided this way of righteousness and holiness so that we can dwell with you. Lord, I pray that you give us a passion this year for nothing other than yourself. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Okay, you're dismissed the first hour class.